Hello and welcome to the Gooner Talk, back again with you guys for another show, for another episode of our Raw Reaction series, and specifically the Arsenal transfer show, our 8 a.m. daily update series in which we keep you guys up to date with what's been going on in the world of Arsenal transfers, both ins and outs. Try to make sense of some of the chaos and, of course, get your thoughts as well in the chat box too. I hope you are well this morning, guys. I hope you're enjoying, or rather have enjoyed, your weekend. It's now Monday. It's crazy how you lose track of days when you work weekends. Yeah, it's been a good week on a holiday, good, refreshed, back for a Monday, back to get ready to go for it once again as we talk plenty more about what's been going on in the world of Arsenal, as we are now just weeks away from the start of the Premier League. Good morning, everybody in the chat box. Good to have so many of you in here, as always, making this your daily morning routine. Fantastic stuff. Thank you ever so much, guys. Please make sure you drop a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you are indeed new around here, with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. And if you'd like to show even more support, you can, of course, vote for us in the Football Content Awards. You just need to go onto Twitter and vote by saying I am voting for @theGoonerTalkTV in @_FCAs for hashtag Best Club Creator. Alternatively, you can click the link in the description, go to the Football Content Awards website and vote for us in the Best Club Creator Premier League category just by typing in the Gooner Talk and hitting vote, as well as plenty of other great categories. So plenty of other people that you might want to do. There's lots of information about how you can vote in the description of today's video. Let's kick off by reminding you about Arsenal's pre-season, and specifically the fact that there is supposedly set to be another pre-season friendly on Wednesday. Now, Harry Symeou of Chronicles of a Gooner, of course, a friend of the channel, revealed yesterday that he has heard that supposedly there will be another friendly, that they are trying to organise one against Watford. However, Watford do have their own pre-season friendly on Tuesday. There is something that it's going to be tricky anyway, because obviously clubs have pretty much sorted their pre-season schedules, and with Arsenal's kind of trip to Florida being cancelled, they really need to kind of sort something out within house and within the UK. If Everton had not have travelled, you may have been able to see them sort out a pre-season friendly with Everton. However, Everton did still travel to Florida, so that obviously wasn't possible. But there could be another pre-season friendly on Wednesday. We'll have to wait and see. Moving then on to a show that we did yesterday evening that you may have missed if you are tuning in this morning. Yesterday we did a show breaking down who our brand new striker, this is a confirmed signing, by the way, or confirmed as far as the Athletic are concerned, Mika Biereth, 18-year-old Fulham striker, 21 goals, 21 games, 13 assists in the under-18s league, very prolific forward. Arsenal have signed him and we broke him down in yesterday's show, so make sure you do go and check that out to find out all about him, with some expert insight from a Fulham reporter as well. So please make sure you do check that out. Let's move on to the main news of the day, though, and we start with Joe Willock, and specifically the fact that he may be edging closer to remaining at Arsenal this season. Newcastle have struggled so far to kind of get an answer from Arsenal as to whether and what they are going to be doing with the young England youth international after he scored a hatful of goals in his 6-month loan spell with Newcastle last year. And that has led them to pursue possible other targets, including Chelsea's Conor Gallagher and Chelsea's Ross Barkley as well. Barkley, of course, spent last season on loan with Aston Villa, whereas Conor Gallagher spent last season with West Brom. And both of those players will be available to leave Chelsea once again this summer, as they are very well stocked in the midfield area, it's fair to say. And so whilst Newcastle may not end up getting Joe Willock, they are looking at other alternatives now because of how long it's taken for basically Arsenal to come to a decision. And there is a growing sense that maybe Joe Willock will be given an opportunity this season in an Arsenal shirt. So that is still yet to be fully confirmed by full credible sources, but we are waiting to see if indeed Joe Willock does stay. But rumours, according to The Athletic, are that Newcastle are looking at alternatives such as Gallagher and Barkley. Moving then on to Hector Bellerin, who, of course, we've been waiting to find out about the future of for quite some time now. Linked with a move to 4 clubs, 3 in Spain, Villarreal, Sevilla and Atletico Madrid. But most of all Italian side, Inter Milan, where he does seem to be moving ever closer to a possible deal. Sempre Milan in Italy have reported that his agent has now travelled once again to the Italian city of Milan to find out whether or not a deal is going to get done and struck. And there is a sense, according to Football London, that this is one that could be, you know, edging closer to possible completion. There was reports earlier this week, or rather last week now, that Arsenal were more open to the idea of a loan with an option that could become an obligation based upon certain clauses with an inflated loan fee, which wouldn't give Arsenal too much money, but it would open up a space in the squad which Arsenal could use to fill with their own new right-back signing. However, there was some interesting news yesterday that Cedric has supposedly really been impressing during pre-season training, despite the fact that Callum Chambers has arguably looked the better right-back during pre-season. So, you know, just don't be surprised if you see Cedric popping up on the right-back position against Brentford on the opening day of the season. We shall see. Moving then on to Ben White, and it has been reported that his medical will now take place on Wednesday. Ben White, of course, flew back to London from his continental holiday, and he is expected to sign with Arsenal and it be announced later on this week. So that's one that we can hopefully put to bed and have a few more kind of confirmed conversations about. But Ben White's £50 million deal from Brighton to Arsenal set to take place this week. Medical is happening on Wednesday. Moving then on to the possible ins regarding Arsenal this season, and we start off with Martin Odegaard, who of course we joined us on loan from Real Madrid last season during the January transfer window for around £6 million. He is a player that Arsenal have always been interested in bringing in on a permanent deal, and supposedly, according to Mario Torrejon from Cadena Ser, the Spanish reporter and the Spanish radio, Cadena Ser, which is usually your go-to place for kind of Spanish information these days, especially from a local standpoint. He has said that he believes that Odegaard is going to leave Real Madrid, despite all the indications that he was initially going to stay, because he said that he's seen him feeling, or rather looking, very disconnected. And then Osman, I'm sure plenty of you follow on Twitter as well, did put up a video showing that an interesting kind of training drill in which all the Real Madrid players are practicing their link-up play and shooting. When Odegaard scores his goal, there's dead silence. And whenever any other player scores, there's celebration. So unless there's some kind of issue going on there at the moment, it's maybe reading into things a little bit too much in regards to a single video, especially from training. But it is important to remember that Real Madrid are definitely hamstrung a little bit financially, or not even a little bit, quite a bit this season. And so do need to move players on. And Odegaard could end up being that player. I would love to see Odegaard back at Arsenal. I just don't think I'd love to see Arsenal pay upwards of £50 million for him, because I think he's not yet earned that kind of figure. But anything lower than £40 million, I think you've got a very decent deal for a player with a hell of a lot of potential and someone that's already shown to be an excellent Premier League quality passer. His passing statistics in the final third into the box are ridiculously good. When you do any of our tactical breakdowns, looking at possible attacking midfield targets, Odegaard just blows them out of the water in regards to his passing game. And it's certainly something where a lot more of his kind of assist statistics would heavily increase as well. John Wayne says, Tom, the video is fake. The full video shows a different story. Thank you, John, for clarifying that for us. And that's why you shouldn't always believe a video that you see posted on your social feeds. Moving then on to Isco and remaining with Real Madrid. Isco is supposedly going to be one of the players let go by Real Madrid this summer. Figures of around £15 million have been touted for the Spanish international, who's really kind of lost his way at the Bernabeu ever since a few years back, after some really successful years, having joined them from Malaga. And Real Madrid, of course, competed with Manchester City for the Malaga player's signature. Now, a lot further on, late 20s, Isco has kind of fallen away in regards to kind of his starting capacity at Real Madrid, and Arsenal's links to wanting an attacking midfielder obviously lead them to be linked with a move for Isco. I wouldn't read anything really into this too much, so I don't think you need to be concerned or get excited if that's the way you are inclined about Isco coming to Arsenal. It would be a very shocking move and certainly not one I expect them to go for, because I think they're just targeting younger players, and it doesn't make too much sense to be adding someone of that kind of wage bill and risk to the squad. So whilst it is a link, it's not one I'd read too much into personally. We end the show talking about, once again, Tammy Abraham. This is a little bit of a selfish one, though these links have persisted, and Arsenal are confirmed by a number of sources, including The Athletic now for credibility, that they are indeed interested in the Chelsea striker. There is a link in the description to an article that I wrote over at 101 yesterday, which basically broke down the kind of debate around whether or not Arsenal should sign Tammy Abraham. It talks about kind of the benefits. It talks about the realistic kind of side statistically of Alexandre Lacazette's game. So go give that a read and then come to a conclusion and let us know how you feel about Tammy Abraham. It gives you kind of more insight into that. So give it a read and find out. But other than that, that does indeed conclude the news for today. Not loads. It's not particularly a busy day. Mondays can be, you know, a little bit tiresome sometimes and a little bit, not boring, but a little bit light in regards to content and news. So not loads to discuss. But it does mean that we've got an extra part of the show to, of course, catch your fancy with a few questions. So if you do indeed have some queries and thoughts and burning kind of theories about things, then please do put them into the chat box and we'll try and answer as many questions as you can. If you haven't already, please do make sure you're dropping a like on the video and subscribing to the channel if you are new around here with those notifications turned on so you never miss a show. Ryan G says, Tom, would you take my shout of James Ward-Prowse to replace Granit Xhaka? James Ward-Prowse, very impressive England midfielder, very unlucky to miss out on Gareth Southgate, scored in the summer, and an incredibly fit midfielder. He played every single game in the Premier League and every single minute for Southampton over the last, not just one, but 2 full seasons. He rarely gets injured. He rarely gets dropped because he's so integral to that Southampton team. Would he be a good signing for Arsenal? In a centre midfielder, I think he would. I think, though, the problem is with James Ward-Prowse is you probably need to play a 4-3-3 in which you played a single number 6 behind him and Partey to really kind of get the best, so you don't have to rely on his defensive capabilities. But as of yet, we are still waiting to see some official links to James Ward-Prowse, but it's not a silly suggestion at all, Ryan. Sheath King says, Corentin Tolisso, £20 million, 26, Bayern, French international. Is it just the current squad size or his injury record that is stopping us from approaching? Again, another good suggestion. Tolisso is someone I like, someone that obviously impressed a lot at Lyon when he was in Liga and then made the move to Bayern where he hasn't looked out of place. But the thing is, Bayern are just targeting a hell of a lot more kind of young centre midfielders and have got so much quality with Goretzka and Kimmich playing in midfield, and Tolisso wants to be playing week in, week out. And who can blame him? He wants to try and get into that French international side a lot more than he did during the Euros, despite being called up. And a move away to Juventus, which does seem a very legitimate possible destination, would give him that. However, I am surprised that Arsenal are not seeing more links with Tolisso. I think he's a very reasonably priced quality central midfielder that Arsenal would do well to get their hands on. So I don't know if it's the injury record. I'm not too sure as to the real details behind his injury record, but if it is quite bad, maybe that is it. But there's also the fact that Arsenal are targeting quite a lot of homegrown and younger profile players than a player of the age of 26. So there is all of that to think about as well. Abalash says, why are we not looking at other players at Barca and Real? They have £150 million. Oh, hold on. Oh, sneeze moment. And it's gone. Okay. Every time, you know, when you get that feeling, it's building up, and then when you address it, you're like, no, I'm just going to hide away again. I was like, am I going to have to mute myself? No, we're all good. Sorry, Abalash says, why are we not looking at other players at Barca and Real? They have $150 million in losses. And I think it is an area that the market should certainly be taking advantage of. And like, you look at the right-back situation at Barcelona, Emerson, Dest, 2 players I think that Arsenal would do well to kind of look at. And you look at Real Madrid and you're looking through their squad. Odegaard is, of course, the obvious one. Luka Jovic is a possible striking option, someone that we could go for, but would be kind of a regeneration project because he needs to, you know, step his game up quite a lot. You've got Odriozola at right back there as well. That's not been getting too many opportunities, despite the fact that Danny Carvajal has suffered with a fair few injuries too. I love Valverde, but I just don't think that they would sell a player of his specific quality. Amandeep says, Tom, how would you feel if Xhaka ends up staying and we do not get anyone in? How would I feel? Well, I wouldn't be... I don't know the right way to kind of say this. I wouldn't be... I think I might be a little bit disappointed because we've built ourselves up to want a new central midfielder. But Granit Xhaka is still a good player. And obviously he showed at the Euros kind of the level of player that he is. I don't think it would be disastrous, especially when you consider we've got Lokonga in. But I just don't. I think the fan base would melt down pretty much. And he's very much pushed for a move to Roma, which would make the situation kind of tricky to manage. But, you know, it wouldn't be shocking if it didn't happen. I think it'd be a bit surprising, but it wouldn't make me like gasp, let's say, if it was to happen, because it's very Arsenal for this type of thing to go down. And at the end of the day, if Roma want him, they've got to step up the price. It's 20 million euros. If you want him, you've got to pay it. It's as simple as that. Good morning, Neil. Do you think Tammy or Bowen is better? Very different players. Jared Bowen, of course, more of a right-sided midfielder. I'm not sure that it's a position that we really need to be pushing for a right-sided midfielder, right wing in that position. But I do like Jared Bowen, but I just don't think that's the right move. I think we're better going for a forward than a right winger. And so, depending on the fee, Abraham would probably take the pick over the two just because of the squad situation. Baldev says, Tom, why does Arteta play a system which suits Lacazette more than Aubameyang? I think mainly at the moment, the reason why we're playing a certain system is we're obviously trying to create a lot more chances. I think also the fact that we haven't got Bukayo Saka and Martinelli right now because they're away and they haven't come back means Aubameyang's getting more minutes on the left. And they're both good players. And the only way that you fit both of them in is that if you play Lacazette as striker and Aubameyang on the left, we don't really play a 4-4-2. And so I think that's probably why. Also, you got to remember that Lacazette's shot conversion rate is a lot better than Aubameyang's. Like, while Aubameyang may score more goals because he gets more chances, when Lacazette gets a chance, he's very good at taking them. He was the third best in the league last year for shots to goals. The only people better than him, I think, were Heung-min Son and Ilkay Gundogan. For context, Harry Kane was 9th. So for all of those kind of factors combined show that Lacazette is the more clinical striker of the two, and maybe that's why he's leaning more towards him. But you would think that they were trying to get a new contract if they liked him so much, which doesn't look to be the case right now, other than maybe a 1-year extension. Partey Assassin says, question, Tom, why are we still chasing Ramsdale? Please tell me it's not true. Partey Assassin, I can't tell you it's not true because it certainly looks like it is that Arsenal are indeed pushing to try and get Aaron Ramsdale from Sheffield United. Look, Sheffield United, Aaron Ramsdale is not a bad goalkeeper. He's not an amazing goalkeeper. He's a good keeper. I mean, he won the player of the season the last 3 years. And I still will maintain it doesn't matter if that team got relegated. The best of a bad bunch is not enough of an argument to say that a player is not good. I mean, Arsenal have had some great players during bad bunches. And you haven't really, sat there and said they're not good enough for Arsenal. I know it's a silly argument, but the whole point is that Aaron Ramsdale is clearly showing up through their metrics and the analysis to be a very good keeper that would fit what they want. I just can't wrap my head around the figure. If you want a backup goalkeeper, why are you spending 26 million quid, which looks like it could be the final fee, 18 million plus 8 in add-ons? Well, it boggles the mind that you'd spend that amount of money. Like, I wouldn't mind Aaron Ramsdale as a backup if it was like 10 to 15 million quid max, but 26 to 30 million quid on a backup goalkeeper is just crazy. It's crazy. We haven't signed a centre mid. We haven't signed an attacking mid. And we need money to do that. And it's so strange that we're spending that amount of money. But hey, it may come in and absolutely prove us wrong. Balaj says, hi, Tom. Keeping the finances aside, I think we should target Declan Rice over James Maddison. Thoughts? I mean, it's very easy, Balaj, you just say that when you use the words, let's put finances aside. Because according to David Moyes, Declan Rice is a £100 million+ player. So, I'm not really sure that Arsenal have the capacity. Would I take him? Of course. I think he's a great midfielder, but he's just not in the bracket of players that Arsenal, unfortunately, are looking at. Abe says, looking at how El Neni played against Millwall, Arteta still wants a central mids to cover at left-back when KT bombs forward. So wouldn't Coop Miners be a brilliant signing? He can also play as a 6. I mean, he's a very good budget option. He'd be available for less than 20 million euros, it looks like. So, yeah, I'd 100%. If we were linked with him, I'd be pleased. If we got him, I'd be delighted. So, yeah, this definitely seems to be a style that we're playing where that midfielder slots into that fullback position. Get that Phillips guy, says Alex. Again, homegrown Premier League player. He's going to cost you upwards of 50 million quid, and I'm not sure that Leeds have even let him go at that level. So, it's just a little bit of a tricky one to see Arsenal getting done. Jashar says, Tom, on current business done, what position would you place Arsenal for next season? On current business, 7th, 6th, 7th, maybe. I mean, we need so much more. Like, we need a better right back. We need another centre midfielder. We need another attacking midfielder. We need a backup goalkeeper. maybe a forward. Like, we need so much more to be competitive for the top 6. And I know people roll their eyes at me saying top 6, but top 6 is a good Premier League finish in this day and age. It really is when you look at the amount of money and the quality of the squads. Top 4 is dreamland. Like, top 4 is absolute dreamland right now. It's a different league than it was 10 years ago. Top 6 is a good season. Top 4 is an unbelievable season. And right now, we are so far from trying to get an unbelievable season. So, yeah, 7th and higher right now is what I would be looking at. Venkatesh says, Tom, do you accept the fact that we haven't seen full potential of Odegaard for Arsenal? Anyone followed him at Sociedad loan will know how poor he was comparing him to the Arsenal loan. He's better than James Maddison. I assume you mean James and not James Rodriguez. Yeah, I mean, I loved him at Real Sociedad. It was a great loan period for him, and he was excellent. The thing about when he came to Arsenal was he had 6 months at Real Madrid prior to that where he barely played. He was injured for quite a bit of it as well, and an ankle injury, I think it was, or a groin injury that kept him out. And he wasn't able to play as many games. And also, when he was fit, Zidane was reluctant to pick him. He comes into Arsenal, suffers another injury during the international break, which kind of affected the latter part of his season. But still, you look at his passing stats in the Premier League, and they're unreal. There was a comment in one of the videos recently that said that Odegaard's passing is basic. And I just can't wrap my head around what people don't always see, especially when you look in the detail and you look at the stats and you see that the passes into the box accuracies up in the high 80s, the passes into the final third of the low 90s. Passing accuracy in general is good. If he could just improve his shot capacity and that side of his game, he'd be an amazing centre midfielder with great potential. It's just, I just think that there's kind of this new toy syndrome that I often use to describe the fact of we've seen Odegaard already, and for some people that's enough. And I'm telling you for a fact that 6 months is not a fair representation, even though it was still very good, of what Odegaard is capable of. But this whole idea of getting someone different and someone new, it just kind of takes over the mind sometimes, and it's something you need to be careful of doing, because sometimes the new toy is not better than what we should have done more sensibly. Neil says, Tom, if you were given 100 million, what positions would you address and which players? Probably the kitchen. Probably get a bigger kitchen as a position in the house. Bedroom could do with a bit of an upgrade. Garden's sorted. Garden's amazing. Go check out the video I put on the channel. No, jokes aside, probably it's 100 million, isn't it? It's a lot of money. And we need to address right back, centre mid, attacking midfield. Or what's priority? For me, I think the priority is centre midfield. Like, that's, for me, is the one. I'd get Basuma. I'd say, Brighton, you want 40 million for Basuma? He's 40 million. You can have it. And we'll take Basuma. That leaves me with 60 million left. Let's go. Norwich is 30 million pounds. We'll take Max Aarons. And we'll bring that in at right back. Attacking midfields, we've got, 30 million left? I can either go to Frankfurt and say, look, I'll take Daichi Kamada for 30 million, or I can go to RB Leipzig and say, I'll take Sabitzer for 20 million, seeing as you're letting him go for so cheap. That leaves me between nothing and 10 million to spend on a goalkeeper. Now, I would have got in on a free Vashlik, the former Sevilla goalkeeper, Czech Republic international, who's now gone to Olympiacos, I believe, on a free. Would have got him. I'm trying to think of other free possible goalkeepers. Could have got Matt Ryan. He's gone to Real Sociedad. Other than that, you'd probably end up going for Onana because he seems to be so cheap. Or for a homegrown option, maybe you convince Freddie Woodman to come in, someone like that, for a cheaper fee. So I hope that answers your question, Neil. So there you go. Brad Hunter says, hey, Tom, what do you think? I think we should not touch our striker this window and maybe go for one next season. Brad, I'm pretty much on the same line as you, mate. I'm pretty much in that same sense that you've got strikers. We have strikers. We have Aubameyang, we have Lacazette, we've got Balogun, you've got Martinelli who can play there. We've still got Eddie Nketiah. So there is a lot of players that can play there. Lacazette's got a year left on his deal, right? Now, I think in a really sensible world, what you do is you say, look, Laka, we want to give you a 1-year extension. We want you to be our main striking force this season alongside Aubameyang. You're going to get plenty of game time. There's no one really coming in for you this summer. Earn your right to a move. Give us one more season and then protect your value, and we'll make some money together when you go. And some people turn around and say that why would he sign a 1-year extension? He likes being here. Lacazette is happy at Arsenal. That's not in question. And I think that he would be happy to stay. He's got his mates around him, and I think he's very content at Arsenal. And I just think that maybe if he was given a lot more service, we'd see a very different Alexandre Lacazette. And there's the fact that there isn't too many options. I mean, Andre Silva is one of my big choices, has gone to RB Leipzig. Tammy Abraham, who's available, it seems, is far too pricey for a player that he is. 40 million is far, far too high for that kind of player. And it's a big risk. You got others in the likes of Luka Jovic, I just think is a bit of a risk, too high of a risk. Patson Daka's gone to Leicester. That would have been another pick. And you've got other options that aren't yet really developed. I love Sekou Koita at Red Bull Salzburg, but I think he needs another season of development. And by that point, maybe he'll be better and we can target him. And maybe there'll be more targets available for us in 2022 than there currently is in 2021. Let's scroll up a little bit. Please make sure you're dropping a like on the video, guys, and showing your appreciation throughout the show. Damien says, hi, Tom. From the links and signings, it looks like the goal is to play further up the pitch. Hopefully, that will make things a lot easier for Laka now. But yes, this is something that Tim Stillman brought up as well, that we're trying to kind of play that high line, push the midfield up so that you don't need your number 9 to necessarily drop in as much. And that means they can be kind of that poacher. And Aubameyang may suit that style a hell of a lot more than, say, and the need to drop in or to drift wide. And he would suit that system. Lacazette may thrive too, despite being someone that can drop in. Not to a world-class standard, but, I mean, his finishing abilities are so good. Like, his finishing is world-class, in my opinion. Yes, he didn't have the best season last year, but I think Lacazette is one of the best finishers in the Premier League, without a doubt. You just got to get him into those positions and get him into those places where he can shoot to score. And I think around the box, he is one of the most clinical strikers that we've got. He had an off year last year, or kind of an off first 6 months. His second half of the season was actually quite good. But yeah, I think that maybe that system, Damien, what you're talking about is ultimately what we do need to do. Sorry, Dave, there's nothing on Coop Miners. We had a suggestion earlier. We've been linked, but there's nothing concrete right now. Apologies. Christopher says Pepe will be our main free kick taker. Him and Partey as well has been stepping up for a couple, and his shooting has improved, which is good to see, because it couldn't get any worse. Is probably the way I'd describe it for sure. Abdullah says, do you think a right back will only be brought in after a Bellerin is sold? 100%. 100%. I don't think you're going to see any links to right backs really strongly until Bellerin goes. So maybe even after Bellerin and Ainsley Maitland-Niles goes. We'll have to wait and see. Uzoezi says, surely the willingness to spend the amount on Ramsdale indicates that we have money to spend elsewhere. And the theory is sound. Like, you think for a backup position, if we're spending 20 million plus on a backup goalkeeper, surely we must have loads of money to spend in other areas. But if only the world worked that way, and if only Arsenal were that easy to predict. But they're not, unfortunately. So I can't say to you that whilst your theory is sound, and I agree with the theory, the outcome could be still very different to Uzoezi. But yeah, that's how I feel about it. Social says 753 of you watching. We've only got 133 likes. Please, guys, drop a like on the video. And also, please drop us a vote for the Football Content Awards. Link in the description to find out how you can vote for the channel. Maya says, are we making any profits on our sales? Not so far. Guendouzi, no. Mavropanos. Mavropanos is like the only one so far. And at the moment, it's still alone until the obligation to buy goes through next season. Torreira, you're not going to make a profit on. Nelson, you will, because he's Academy product if he goes through. Maitland-Niles, you will, again, Academy product. So you make some money off those guys. But other than that, Granit Xhaka, you're going to make a loss. Kolasinac would be, because we got him on a free. However, it's cost us a lot of money in wages. So there's that to consider. But he came in on a free. So that would be a kind of a profit on him if he was to go for any kind of money. So there's that. So there's some things to think about there. Tis to Discuss says, for that further up the pitch pressing play style, shouldn't we pass on Odegaard and other players who don't have the tenacity for it? Get a Palhinha and a Dani Olmo. Yeah, I mean, Dani Olmo is a little bit far-fetched to consider, but Palhinha I like a lot as more of kind of a defensive midfielder. But no, I don't think Odegaard is at all. Not, I mean, Real Sociedad like to press, and I mean, he played very well there. You've got him playing in a situation where he could feed those passes through to the striker so they don't have to drop, and that they would actually work quite well. Party Assassin says, question, Tom, what if Laka refuses to sign a 1-year deal? I think no player should be allowed to leave for free. I mean, we may not have a choice, unfortunately. I think this is kind of that last window where I feel we have to deal with this deadwoods. I think this is the last kind of window where we should be, and January maybe, but next summer, hopefully, we've got the opportunity then to change the perception of things. Gary Mullen says, Tom, why has there been no talk of Saul to Arsenal? He fits everything that we need, and he's a decent price, plus he can link back up with Partey. Mainly because I think he wants Champions League football, Gary. I think that's the big thing, is Arsenal just can't offer that same thing that Man United, that Liverpool can offer to sell. We can't seemingly do that. Barcelona, if their swap deal of Griezmann ever happens, like all of those, I can't fathom why he would want to come to Arsenal over those clubs right now. It just doesn't make too much sense. But yeah, it'd be great if we got Saul, but it just doesn't seem like a realistic option at the moment. John Wayne says, Tom, do you think we need to sell before we buy? Not because of funds, but to hold a stronger position when negotiating sales. I mean, arguably, there's an argument to say, isn't there, John, that once you've sold players, you've then got more money. Clubs know you've got more money, so that weakens your negotiating position. I think that we need to sell before we buy because we need to open up more slots in the squad, and we can't afford to not sell players and then bring players in and then have a bloated squad where you're paying wages to players that aren't playing. So I think that's mainly the reason why we need to sell before we buy. You've also got to think about that we are close to our non-homegrown quota, and so that's something else that you need to think about. And Mandeep says, Tom, are there any shows planned for fantasy football? It's tricky to do fantasy football dedicated shows when you're an Arsenal-specific channel because fantasy is just so broad and wide-ranging. I love fantasy football. I won the Euro Fantasy Football League for our TGT members, which Daniel Robert was very salty about. But in regards to the league stuff, it's very broad. And so, to be honest, it's tricky. But we certainly will update you on how the TGT League is going. I'm going to make sure that code goes into the description from now on if you would like to join our fantasy league for next season, which is already set up. So I'll make sure that that code is in the description. Answer says, Tom, what's happening with Ruben Neves links? Do you think they'll pop back up after Xhaka is gone? Apparently, Man United have stolen a march on Arsenal in regards to the race for Ruben Neves. I think we are certainly waiting until Granit Xhaka leaves before we target a central midfielder because you don't want to go and buy one and then Roma to pull out. So that's probably what we're waiting to do. Ben P says, even though we're seeing Bellerin linked away to Inter Milan, would it not be better to keep him, despite him not being the player that he used to, because he's homegrown rather than Cedric? Well, if you go and sign a Max Aarons, you don't necessarily have that problem. So that's what I would say to that, Ben. Anyway, we have gone over our 30-minute allocation, so I am going to wrap things up there. Thank you all so much, guys, for tuning in. Really appreciate your time, as always. Do drop a like on the video if you are new to the channel. If you would like to support us a little bit more, you can, of course, drop us a vote over on the Football Content Awards. All you need to do is go onto your Twitter feed and tweet, I am voting for @the_Gooner_TV in @the_FCAs for #BestClubCreator. More information about how you can vote without Twitter is in the video description. Please make sure you do that. Thank you ever so much, guys, for tuning in. I'll see you a little bit later on today, I'm sure, to talk more about what's coming up this week and answer some more of your questions too. It's been an absolute pleasure as always. And as always, up the Arsenal.